Welcome, useless eaters, to the Odd Man Out podcast, where we talk about hidden history, deep political policy, occult deconstruction, economics, religion, and philosophy. I'm your rabbit hole aficionado, the Odd Man. Welcome.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
Public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
And when that first cocaine was smuggled in on a ship, it may as well have been a deadly bacteria so much as it hurt the body, the soul of our country. But take my word for it, this scourge will stop.
Welcome, oddities, to another Odd Man Out podcast. As always, thank you for taking your precious time to hang out with me. Now, this show, I'm going to be doing kind of a dive on Elon Musk, praise be his name. Because this guy, I'm convinced, and you guys know if you follow me on social media, and probably you know from listening to this show because I've mentioned it, I think that he's a charlatan. I think that he is an opportunist at best, but what I really believe is since he's working with the U.S. government, has contracts with the intelligence agencies, and he's working with all these foreign governments, including Israel, and especially Israel, that he is controlled opposition, and he is ushering in our own demise. He's got conservatives eating out of the palm of his hands, and why is that? It's because he's telling them exactly what they want to hear. And ladies and gentlemen, we know from the propaganda episodes that I've done, that's really all it takes. Because there's not a lot of discernment out there. People are desperate. They're desperate to be led. They're desperate to have people in the spotlight agree with them and be on their side. And that makes them targets. So we're going to go over a few things that maybe we've mentioned before on a couple of shows, and some newer things as well, because I think it's interesting to lay out this information. And then at the end of the show, I may give my 2 cents worth, but I want you to make up your own mind, because I think it's very important now more than ever, because he's inserted himself into the spotlight. He's inserted himself into being one of the main voices, besides Trump, in conservatism. Now, we know that Trump is not really conservative, and we went down the line and mentioned so many reasons why, but even he himself, of course, says he's not conservative, so that's not really an issue. Elon Musk, of course, is not conservative, and he said that in the past as well, but people want so hard to believe that he is, and want so badly to believe that he's on their side. And I don't blame them for wanting to have someone on their side, but damn it, we have to have discernment, and we have to judge things for their facts, judge things the way they are, not the fantasy that we've built up in our head or the illusion that we really want to hang on to make us feel better about things. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the show. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some excerpts from an episode that Infowars did maybe 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, on Elon Musk, back when they still told the truth. And people tell me that some of the people on Infowars do tell the truth, but Alex Jones, as we've exposed him and others have exposed him, is an opportunist too. He's a charlatan. And if you notice, all of these people in Con Inc., Conservative Inc., they all praise Elon, and they don't bring up all the negatives and all the potential reasons why he could be the one to screw us over really badly in the end. And, I think, and you guys have heard me say this, I think that the technocracy and technocrats, I think the things that they're building, the technocracy is tyrannical by its very nature. It just evolves that way, whether we're talking about the surveillance state or a number of other things. And so it's just the way it is. It can't be helped. So even if you have the best intentions, eventually your technocracy is going to turn evil. But then again, as we've noted, also Elon's grandfather was a leader in the Technocracy Inc. movement in Canada. So that's just another layer, just another clue as to why he's probably not really on our side. So let's go ahead. We're going to take some samples from this show, talk a little bit, talk about some other facts, and play some more samples as we go. Here we go.
Pop culture has touted Elon Musk as some sort of eccentric heavyweight genius with humble beginnings. But this is demonstrably false. Elon Musk was born in South Africa, where he claims he grew up extremely poor, but his family owned an emerald mine. As a teenager, Elon would trade emeralds for cash in New York City, and his father bragged how they had so much money we couldn't even close our safe. Musk claims to have had about $100,000 of student loan debt, but he received a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania, where he bought a 10-bedroom frat house with his friend Adeo Resi and ran an illegal nightclub. The pop culture claim is that Elon has an IQ of 155, but this has never been tested, and after being accepted into Stanford for PhD studies, he dropped out after 2 days. After dropping out, Elon began his first business venture with his brother Kimball, Zip2, which was essentially a digital version of the Yellow Pages. The brothers received tens of thousands of dollars from their parents, and yet Elon denies this. An associate of Elon's father, Greg Curry, got involved to bring in investors, but Elon's code was no good, so they had to hire on professional coders to rewrite everything. Zip2 was then sold for $307 million to Compaq, who later shut it down without ever earning a profit. Elon made $22 million, bought a $1 million McLaren F1 supercar, which made mainstream news, before he totaled the uninsured vehicle. Musk then went on to create an online bank, X.com. He partnered with banking expert Harris Fricker, Edward Ho, and Christopher Payne. All three ended up leaving the company after accusing Elon of lying to the media about the quality of their product. Elon claims he founded PayPal. Before the company was named PayPal, it was known as Confinity. It was founded in 1998 by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. After losing millions of dollars, Elon's X.com was bought by Confinity in a merger in 2000. All Musk contributed at Confinity was his own power struggle. He made himself CEO and pushed to change the name to X.com. The executive team successfully petitioned to fire Musk while he was away on vacation. Part of Musk's resignation agreement stipulated that all references to founders of the company will be removed from their website, allowing Elon to claim credit, which so far is all he has ever achieved. Peter Thiel then rebranded the company as PayPal, went public, and sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. Elon made $180 million from the deal, which he then invested into Tesla, SpaceX, and failed company SolarCity.
Now, this is exactly the kind of guy, the kind of personality that the elites want to do their bidding, because he's obviously cutthroat, as this video has proven, and he will do what it takes to get ahead. And they need that kind of person out there, whether it's to be the leader of the EV movement, to talk conservatives into going along and becoming advocates of the EVs, or whatever, maybe the future leader of conservatism, because let's face it, he is right behind Trump, basically. And I've noticed a pattern, as I mentioned earlier, that all these conservative outlets have been promoting Elon nonstop for a couple of years now. And they're all the cookie-cutter conservative outlets that promoted the war on terror, that promote destroying Palestine and killing all those people. The exact same kind of people who prop up the Israeli government and the military-industrial complex. And so I think that is another thing to think about and look at. A lot of people are saying that Elon wants to turn X, which was Twitter, totally different thing than what this fellow from Infowars is talking about. Isn't it interesting that Elon named Twitter X, but he wants to turn X into a PayPal-like platform, sort of. He wants it to be a one-stop shop where you will be able to use digital currency, X currency. It'll pretty much be an all-encompassing type of platform. And so I believe that's what's going to happen. You got to understand this is one of the richest men in the world, or as far as we know. A lot of people say there's this black nobility and there's this money that we don't even know who it belongs to or anything about it. And that's probably true. I mean, they got all these offshore accounts that we learned on our episode when we talked about the Square Mile in London. But that aside, Elon is seen as one of the richest men in the world, maybe the richest man in the United States. I'm not sure. It's hard to imagine him being richer than Jeff Bezos, but he probably is. And so he's going to continue to get more and more rich because the elites want to go to electric vehicles, obviously. And so he is the king of that. And he's leading conservatives into becoming advocates of EVs. I was just basically cursed out the other day on a Facebook page. Forget which one it was. One of the cookie cutter ones like Daily Caller or MRC or whatever. And it had something, some post about Elon because they cannot get enough of Elon no matter what. And I just said, isn't it interesting that traditionally conservatives were against EVs, but here Elon is bringing them into the fold. And these guys, they totally took it wrong. And I was called all kinds of names, communist and everything else. They didn't even understand what I was trying to get at. Because I'm convinced, of course, that these strategists, they know that if they really want to talk one side into something that they don't like, they have some personality, some character that they do like to ease them into it. It's all about psychology, and it's something that average people don't think in the slightest about.
Elon falsely claims to be the founder of Tesla. Tesla was founded in 2003 by Mark Tarpenning and Martin Eberhard, who developed the Tesla Roadster. When Tesla Motors began looking for venture capital, they approached Elon Musk, who had the fake credibility as PayPal's co-founder. Musk joined with the condition that he be named chairman of the board. In emails, Musk was upset that the media was not giving him credit for Tesla Motors and went after Martin Eberhard, replacing him as CEO. He then forced Eberhard out of the company and rewrote the company's history to have himself listed as an original co-founder. Martin Eberhard, the man behind the Tesla Roadster, was promised the first Roadster off the assembly line, but Musk screwed him over on that as well and sent that car into space.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
So who is Elon Musk? Elon describes his father as being an evil, abusive man. His father, Errol Musk, has been accused of being a pedophile and fathered a child with his stepdaughter, who is 42 years younger than him. This spoiled, narcissistic failure, son of accused pedophile, wants to put computer chips in everyone's brain so that we can merge with artificial intelligence. His girlfriend is now bragging how this could all lead to a communist utopia. And strangely enough, former Nazi and head of NASA, Wernher von Braun, predicted a man named Elon would conquer Mars in a 1952 novel that he wrote. Which is odd, because NASA has partnered with Elon's SpaceX to work towards colonizing Mars. Elon Musk, like everything else in today's modern society, is a fraud, a fake genius, just like fake philanthropist Bill Gates and his fake vaccines.
We know that Elon is suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, obsessed with getting people to Mars. And somehow this doesn't upset conservatives. They just put up with it because he talks about the shit libs. Just like Trump, they put up with Trump's stuff. They totally ignore any of his negatives because he says things about the people that they don't like. And I think that someone pointed out the other day, there's no way, if you think that Elon Musk is tweeting every 5 seconds and running all these huge companies, you are insane. So one of two things has to be true. Either he's not running these companies and he's just the face out there, or he has a team of PR specialists making his tweets for him. And it sounds to me like that could be the case, although I could go with either one at this point. But think of Cambridge Analytica 2.0, and when they found out exactly how to market Trump to the people. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's absolutely true. It's just the way it is. And obviously, this is what a lot of these politicians and businesses do because they follow people online. They don't even have to make it official. They can get their specialists, their political strategists to look at these things and see how people react, and then they will know exactly how to market things to them. Now, I saw a video from the Wall Street Journal from 12 years ago, and the title was Elon Musk, I'll put a man on Mars in 10 years. Well, he's 2 years behind now, but the way he makes these tweets about Mars, colonizing Mars, and he makes it out almost like the Earth is not even going to be inhabitable. At IAM_SMX tweeted out that Starship will take humanity to the moon in less than 5 years, and Mars will be 7 to 8 years. This was recently. They put a quote on here from Elon, which says, "We're going to go to the moon. We're going to have a base on the moon. We're going to send people to Mars and make life multi-planetary." Doge Designer, which Elon retweets constantly, so I think it's just one of his accounts on X, says, breaking, Elon Musk just announced the timeline for Mission Mars. 2 years. First uncrewed starships launched to Mars during the next Earth-Mars transfer window to test landing. Elon tweeted out 2 years ago, Starship takes beings on Earth to Mars, and what it is a starship in place of an ark, and there's all kinds of animals outside of the starship, I guess going on to the starship just like they were going on to the ark. So the other day, Elon tweets out, read Asimov's Foundation books, Isaac Asimov, the book series. And Wes says, the Foundation is a sanctuary for the galaxy's top scientists and scholars to preserve knowledge and begin a new civilization. Elon tweeted out September 18th, any sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from technology. King of X says, for those who are not aware, Elon is referencing an inversion of Arthur C. Clarke's famous third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Now, I think that's important for one reason. I think his head's in the clouds, and he reads sci-fi, and he's basing some of his ideas on sci-fi. Now, as far as Arthur C. Clarke goes, I watched Childhood's End, I guess it was early this year, maybe in the winter, and I think I talked about it a little bit, but I think there's a 3-part series on sci-fi, I believe, and I suggest you all watch it. It's actually pretty good, but basically what it is these beings come to Earth, right? And guess what? They look almost identical to Elon's red suit that he wore on Halloween, which is still his X profile picture, you know, with the upside down crosses and whatnot. Now, these guys didn't have upside down crosses, but it's these very tall beings. Their bodies are red like that, and they look like kind of like a Baphomet. Their heads, they have big horns. It looks basically like a giant Satan. So these, I think there's like maybe 3 of them, come down to Earth from a spaceship. And of course, the people are scared to death. Some weird things start happening. Long story short, all of a sudden, all Earth is peaceful. There's no wars. There's no reason for anyone to work anymore. They basically can do whatever they want to do. There's just world peace and harmony, right? And that lasts for a little while. And then, after the people have befriended these aliens, the alien that they actually leave Earth, the 3 aliens, and Carillion, I believe, is the main one. He comes back and he tells these people that he's befriended that Earth is about to die. He says, you know, I can take your children and go ahead and basically extinguish them because it'll be much harder for you if they're still here at the end. And of course they resist. And Carillion actually, I believe he dies. But, you know, I hate to break it to you, at the end, the whole Earth is destroyed. And it's basically like almost, it reminds me of these culty Gaia worshipers who would, you know, they believe that humans are destroying the Earth. And I feel like this is part of what Musk is doing, because he's tweeting these things, making it sound like we need to get away from Earth and go to Mars, which humans can't even breathe in the atmosphere of Mars, I'm told. So it doesn't really make sense. It's all this fantastical, illusionary bullcrap, but this guy is so influential, and these people eat it up. Thousands upon thousands of people eat it up. And the other day, of course, I didn't watch it, but Elon came out to one of Trump's campaign stops, and that was huge, right? And so, he's wearing the dark MAGA hat, dressed in dark clothes. What is dark MAGA? Nobody really knows, but it's really interesting because, well, let's see if we can pull up actually what Elon said. Just a snippet of it, okay? Because I think this is worth going over here, just quickly.
And free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And
democracy.
If people don't know what's going on, if they don't know the truth, how can you make an informed vote? You must have free speech in order to have democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment.
So let's think about that for a minute. The Dems, which we've been talking about in the democracy propaganda episodes, are obsessed with democracy. And the Republicans haven't talked about it nearly as much. But here's Elon. He's talking about democracy, just like a good lib does, because they have this fake idea of democracy. I mean, he knows it's not really a democracy, and this guy is really good at propaganda, if he indeed is even the one that's tweeting out stuff. But he's telling the people exactly what they want to hear, even if it's like 30-year-old memes and sayings. He's telling these Republicans and these MAGA people exactly what they want to hear, okay? And they really want that. That means more to them than action. And obviously that's been the case for decades and decades, or we wouldn't be in the position we are. People like Lindsey Graham wouldn't have continued to get reelected and those kinds of things. But he has become this huge player. And it's definitely worth mentioning because he said that the Second Amendment protects the First Amendment, which is absolutely correct. He is right there on the stage of the guy who said, take the guns first, worry about due process later. He's the bump stock banning guy. He's the guy who, under him, they upped the age to buy a firearm. That's your natural right. And they upped the age to do that, okay? So these things happen under the presidents we like, not the ones we dislike. And the elites know that, and they use it to their advantage. And isn't it interesting, as I've talked about Conservative Inc., fake conservatives, Melania Trump came out with her book saying that she is pro-choice. She's straight out pro-choice. And we kind of knew that. We know that Trump came in as pro-choice. And obviously, these people are way more liberal than any conservatives that we've had in the past, even though we've had a bunch of fake conservatives in the past as well. These guys don't even really have to pretend like they're conservative because, let's face it, the left has gone so far to the left that they're going to have to either stop or start going back to the right. And so why should these Republicans, these MAGA people, really be conservative when they don't have to? Because the Republican people, the average people, want anybody but the opposition, so they're not going to hold them accountable. People are only thinking on their emotions at this point, so close to the election. And then let's get to what Elon said about free speech. They try to market X as this platform for the people, and they're still banning people on X. The Defund Israel Now account got suspended. I put on one of my, maybe two of my socials. Actually, I know I put it on Instagram, and I think I actually tweeted it to Elon Musk. It was like a snapshot of all these accounts that he's deleted or whoever runs X has deleted. So how can you say you're for free speech while still deleting people and suspending people? It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold water. But again, there's not going to be any accountability. I mean, God forbid, you go on one of these Con Inc. social media pages and say the slightest thing against Trump or Elon or one of these other people, and you will get decimated and called every name in the book by people who really have no clue about the facts. They really don't even know what's going on. Again, they're just acting on emotions, and they'll get screwed over time and time again, never admit it, and continue to praise these people long afterwards. And by the way, the author Isaac Asimov was a really weird dude with some really weird ideas and a Freemason as well. And, Elon has made tweets about Freemasons before. I remember one in particular. I don't have it on my phone. I thought I did. It says something like, the Freemasons' problem was when they started giving their work away for free. And I thought that was kind of an odd tweet to put out there, especially when Freemasonry is so controversial. But Elon is a part of the military-industrial complex, as we've noted, with his contracts with the U.S. government. And obviously you can't fight the deep state when you are a part of the deep state. He's retweeting Benjamin Netanyahu. He's totally on board with the War on Terror 2.0. He's going to be a big part of it. He's going to be a big part of global and domestic spying for the elites. There's no question his technology will be used. And we've made note that obviously Elon, he's going to have these huge contracts with the next president, regardless of if it's Trump or Kamala or whomever. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. He's going to have those contracts. And that's just the way it is. He's really got nothing to worry about. I mean, they invited him to the Atlantic Council's big Global Citizens Award just a couple weeks ago. They're in New York. It's this Hollywood gala. I've talked about this before. So Elon goes and he gets to present the Global Citizens Award to the PM of Italy, who promised to be a conservative, but obviously did not govern that way. And so people were remarking, is Elon and her together? Are they dating? Do they have a romance? Because they were looking lovingly into each other's eyes. I mean, Elon, let's face it, the dude's got, 12 kids from different women? I mean, come on. Not a guy you want to have as your role model. But then again, Trump isn't either. So at least Trump, I guess, married the women. I don't know. I guess because he's older, and that's more of a thing that you do old school with the young people not really worrying about getting married. Not that Elon is a young spring chicken, and we're talking about Elon talking about democracy. And, the other day, Elon retweeted a Donald J. Trump tweet. I'm still calling them tweets, so deal with it. And it was actually Elon Musk who said voting for Trump, only way to save democracy. And then just right before the news came out of Melania and her book and her pro-choice stance, Elon tweeted, "Could not be more clear that @real Donald Trump will veto a national abortion ban. He has said it many times before, but this simple statement makes his position absolutely obvious and unequivocal." And you've got Linda Yaccarino, those we don't speak of. She tweeted out the other day, "If not for X, there would be darkness." And Donald J. Trump posts underneath said, "Thank you @Elon Musk." And then something I noticed that was kind of interesting here. Doge Designer, one of Elon's accounts, it says, "The diplomats want war and the warriors want peace. Elon Musk." It's got a picture of Elon sitting somewhere in a crowd, and he's making that weird Illuminati hand sign where all of your fingers and your thumbs are touching, which just may be something that's happenstance because all of us do that from time to time. But I just thought that was kind of eye-catching because nobody was really talking about it. I see these conspiracy theorists talk about that all the time. When people do it, people in power, not a word about that. And someone else reminded me the other day, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Johnny Vidamore. He said that Elon Musk is a Royal Society member. And I remember reading about that. I totally forgot about it. So you got him at the Atlantic Council, which is NATO's think tank, one of the major military-industrial complex organizations where big companies come together with the government, with the military, with some of the media, and they throw in some musicians and people like that from time to time. But this is really about them patting themselves on the back. And I think I said this the other day on a show, maybe not mine, but Why, if you don't know about it, is the Atlantic Council important? Well, it's NATO's think tank and policy institute, and NATO gets millions upon millions upon billions of dollars to do what it does to keep the military-industrial complex going. And I've said for a long time that NATO is the armed wing of the New World Order, and of course it is. But the thing that makes it even more interesting and important is all these huge, huge companies donate to the Atlantic Council. And how can you be an anti-globalist, Elon Musk, if you're at a Global Citizens Award of the military-industrial complex? You go on there and you see like the first or second Hall of Contributors to NATO. That's what it's called, Hall of Contributors 2023, if you want to look it up yourself. Well, I think the top one is Facebook. You got Google, Exxon. Interestingly enough, there's like 4 organizations that are Soros organizations that give to Atlantic Council. And wouldn't we think that, well, Soros is against the military-industrial complex? Not at all. He's not. And we've been trying to tell you this because wherever there's an uprising and an overthrow of governments, there is open societies, or one of their dozens upon dozens upon dozens of organizations that they fund. It's the same thing with the National Endowment for Democracy, which is ran by U.S. intelligence. They are changing the world through these non-governmental organizations. And the average person probably couldn't even tell you what that means. But this is the way it's happening behind the scenes. So Elon Musk standing like 3 people over from Klaus Schwab at the Atlantic Council's Global Citizens Award, and these conservatives still think he's on their side. I mean, what can I tell you? You know, he's said in the past in his tweets, as we've covered on the show, that he's not liberal or conservative. And really, he's probably telling the truth. He's probably a little bit of both. But what really is important is the money. And that's what people can't seem to figure out, is money trumps the left and the right. Money means everything. Money is the language. Money is the political views of these people. This is what they do. This is what their opinions are based on. This is what their actions are based on and their policies are based on. Again, just a couple days ago, Elon tweeted out, "Those against freedom of speech are the bad guys." And he retweeted, "Free speech is the bedrock of democracy. Support candidates who champion free speech, not censorship." Again, still censoring on there, on X. And as we've talked about, if they don't censor you and they don't delete you, then they just suppress your tweets and nobody sees them. So you might as well not even be doing it. It's a waste of time. And that's what the right is doing, this whole Conservative Inc. Because I've talked about this and I mentioned it earlier, but like, you know, if you go over on one of their pages on X or Facebook or whatever, and you say something, it goes a couple of different ways. If you say something that goes slightly against their original post, you either get spammed with fake girls with their boobs out, or you get cursed out and called all kinds of names, or you just don't get anything. And that's the way it goes a lot of the times. So they obviously just suppress your posts and your replies, your comments. And that's the way they're doing it. And they're just as bad as the left, but they don't talk about it. Nobody's talking about it because honestly, they just want an echo chamber on both sides. And that's what they got for the most part. Nobody's really thinking, because if you're thinking party-wise, then you're not really thinking at all, because these are controlled parties.
I want to tell you a story of Elon Musk and why he is the way that he is. But it's actually a story about his grandfather, Joshua N. Handelman. Like me, Handelman lived in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Unlike me, Handelman was a technocrat. Now, today, people use that word to describe obtuse policy wonks or centrist Democrats. Basically, it's a political slur. Nobody actually calls themselves a proud technocrat. But Handelman did. He was literally part of a political movement called Technocracy Inc, and he was head of the Canadian chapter. Handelman and Technocracy Inc hoped to turn North America into a continent-wide technate. This was to be a techno-utopia governed by science and expertise. Handelman's movement was led by a mysterious figure named Howard Scott.
There's not a lot known about his background, and he was a bit of a fabulist in the sense that he made up stuff about himself. He created Technocracy Incorporated in 1933 and led it until he died in 1970. And he was both his biggest asset and his biggest liability.
This is Ira Basin, a radio documentarian that works at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. He produced an excellent CBC Ideas documentary on this very subject. It's called Welcome to the Technate. We called him up to ask him about what he learned. Ira tells us that Howard Scott was this eccentric, imposing figure. I'm talking 6'5". He stood out and he really knew how to command a room.
And this really comes across when you listen to him. He was a great speaker. He had a great deep voice because he was a chain smoker, and chain smokers often have, it's kind of cruel that way, often have great voices for radio.
Now, as far as technocracy's ideas are concerned, we're so far left that we make communism look bourgeois.
Scott's radical claim was that engineers should run society. And like any good engineer, he presented his claim in the most technical of terms. He made technocracy seem natural and inevitable.
He was clearly very smart, not as smart as he thought he was, but he was a very smart guy. Could ream off like facts and figures, was apparently trained as an engineer.
Remember that we stated years ago that when the producing mechanism in the United States, on or before it, the consumption of extraneous energy reached 200,000 kilogram calories per capita per day, that when it reached that, the majority of healthy, able-bodied citizens would no longer be required to produce and distribute the physical wealth of this continent.
Obviously, other people have talked about Elon's grandfather, who was in Technocracy Inc. I just thought it was important to kind of put the philosophy of Technocracy Inc. out there, and you heard its founder who said that it was to the left of communism, and you hear him talking about kind of the same things, just in different wordings, that Elon talks about as far as the happiness of man and having this universal basic income because no one will need to work. So you start to see that this Technocracy Inc. philosophy is really carried over into Elon's philosophy, and a lot of people don't know anything about this, so I suggest that you look into that. I know Patrick Wood did a book called Technocracy Inc., and I'm pretty sure that he covers some of Elon's grandfather in there. Again, just yesterday, I think it was, or a couple days ago, Elon tweeted, "If at real Donald Trump doesn't win, the Democrats will have 4 years to turn swing states into permanent deep blue states," and retweeted, "Democracy is indeed on the ballot. We are one amnesty away from a one-party state." Who believes this crap from these charlatans? Well, a lot of people do. Isn't it interesting that in 2020, President Donald J. Trump eased restrictions on mining minerals here in the United States? And so we have the mines, there's a couple different mines in North Carolina that have come to light, lithium mines, big money, unbelievably large contracts. And wouldn't you know, as I said it would probably happen, Elon Musk is one of the biggest beneficiaries of opening up those mines, of course, with Tesla. And you can go on and look, he's got contracts with Piedmont Mining. So I guess I would be friends with Trump too if I were getting access to those mines, because he's got to have those for Tesla to be successful, especially if they're thinking about going to war with China. Pretty funny, Dr. Shiva, he's been great. Really interesting, entertaining guy. And I'm not saying I agree with all of his views because I don't know all of his views, but you talk about a guy who just says whatever he thinks. And he has just told the truth about the sham that is Conservative Inc., as well as Liberal Inc. I mean, he knows that that's a big farce and they are authoritarians. And at this point, it's almost like, in my mind, better the enemy you know who is telling you directly what they want to do than those who are killing you with kindness, telling you what you want to hear, but undermining you at every turn. But Dr. Shiva, he tweeted from Business Insider, Elon Musk told biographer that Trump is the world champion of bullshit. This was in September of 2023, which I thought was pretty funny because it takes one to know one. And think about again how Infowars told the truth about Elon Musk, and now Alex Jones cannot kiss his arse enough. You know, Elon is a real character. Not even an American as far as I've been told. Now, I could be wrong. But, you know, he's lauded by all these other countries because he has this exclusive technology. That's what it is. And that's why he'll have those contracts no matter what. Because if he's the only one that can give them, then obviously the U.S. government will be working with him. Same with Peter Thiel, you know, his buddy. You know, Peter Thiel, real strange guy. I think I said this on the Brian McLean show. I think it was Whitney Webb who tweeted out a speech by Peter Thiel maybe 3 weeks ago or so. And he was at the London School of Economics and Social Sciences. And he was saying on there how he hated competition, which reminds me of David Rockefeller, who allegedly said the same thing. I believe it was David. Now, David attended the London School of Economics and Social Sciences, just like George Soros did, and we've noted that. Now, Peter Thiel fancies himself as a libertarian, yet he is at the Fabian Socialist Society-created London School of Economics and Social Sciences. Why would any libertarian go to those places, have anything to do with those people? Ask yourself that. Many of you probably saw Peter Thiel just kind of break up when an interviewer asked him about if he was aiding Israel in the war in Gaza or the genocide in Gaza. This guy was stumbling, sweating, couldn't look at anyone in the eyes. It's the kind of guy he is, you know. There was another interview he did with someone, a couple of guys. He's sitting in a room here, and he says that Christianity is the root of wokeness. And I just thought, you know, this guy, just for him saying that, he's obviously got a hate for Christianity, and maybe that's because he's gay or whatever, I don't know. But that is absurd. I mean, you can say a lot of things that the church has done that is a mistake or handle things the wrong way, but to say something like that, that's just hateful and wrong. It's clearly wrong. And so, you know, again, he's the big backer of J.D. Vance, and he's been a backer of Trump and all that stuff. This is the new conservatives. This is the new right that are not conservative. And I mean, if people like me and a few others don't tell people about this, then they'll consider these guys conservative. And, you know, I know that we won't even be able to get through to most people anyway. They're completely, totally gone. They're under a spell. But a few people who really want to know the truth, this will mean a lot to them and it'll allow them to make their correct choices and not be screwed over by these people. Now, I'm going to play a clip from a Corbett report that he did a couple of years ago on Elon Musk. I won't play the whole thing, but I'm going to play some of it. But before I get to that, just yesterday, Elon retweeted J.D. Vance, and Elon says, "Let us venture among the stars." And then J.D. Vance, his tweet is, "I believe the destiny of this country is to conquer the stars. Whatever your views of Elon's politics, this is something that should inspire all of us." And I couldn't help but think of how NASA has been so secretive and laundered money, stolen money, millions and billions of dollars from the U.S. taxpayers just down a hole, and how Trump created the U.S. Space Force. And so Elon will be benefiting from the U.S. Space Force, obviously, as he's working with NASA right now. And who knows what's ahead? Will it be Space Wars? Will it be the Star Wars that they talked about in the 80s? I mean, obviously, if there's anything in the sky or in space, whatever you believe, in the atmosphere to be had that can make money, these guys will be going after it. So keep that in mind. It may just be pretend. It may just be, yeah, we're going to colonize Mars. We're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to go to the moon, just as an excuse to launder money. You know, they can shoot their penises, their obelisks in the sky and brag about it, and it costs millions upon millions of dollars, and we'll be footing the bill, but who cares? Because it's like Alan Greenspan said, they can print endless money, so they can't really go broke. Yet they can't print money so FEMA can give to the people who were hurt by Hurricane Helene. You know, you start to look at this stuff, and it just gets absolutely ridiculous.
It does start to raise questions, but I know there might be some out there who's still clinging on to their fanboydom. Well, come on. I mean, he's one of the cool billionaires. He made his money the good old-fashioned honest way, and he's cool. He smokes pot on Rogan, and he makes memes and jokes about Bill Gates. See? He's on our side. He's one of the good billionaires who just happens to promote absolutely every one of the fundamental globalist agenda items.
And the pace of change is going to require us to do more fundamental reimagining of our social and political arrangements. And so we're going to have to consider new ways of thinking about these problems, like a universal income.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income.
Here's Klaus Schwab saying, certainly in the next 10 years. Today, at the end of this, we are talking about chips that can be implanted. And at first, we will implant them in our clothes. And then we could imagine that we will implant them in our brains or in our skin. What we see is a kind of fusion of the physical, digital, and biological world.
We've simplified this to simply something that is about the size of a large coin. And it goes in your skull, replaces a piece of skull, and the wires then connect within a few centimeters or about an inch away from the device.
Talking about Neuralink.
I mean, frankly, to sort of simplify this, what we're, I mean, it's more complicated than this, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires.
So I guess one question is, how essential is, at a governmental level, you know, a carbon tax or something that prices carbon to create the right incentives?
Yeah, it's absolutely a carbon tax. If it's politically adoptable, if that can practically happen, a carbon tax at quite a high level that, you know, has some resemblance to the green premiums for these products. So it'd have to be like $100 to $200 a ton. That sends out the clear market signal.
So we need to go from having an untaxed negative externality, which is effectively a hidden carbon subsidy of enormous size, $5.3 trillion a year, according to the IMF, every year. We need to move away from this and have a carbon tax. So what can you do? I would say whenever you have the opportunity, talk to your politicians, ask them to enact a carbon tax. We have to fix the unpriced externality. I would talk to your friends about it and fight the propaganda from the carbon industry.
Elon met with biotech company CureVac, one of Tesla's business partners, who are currently working on a COVID-19 vaccine candidate that is being funded by Bill Gates. Tesla is working with CureVac in an effort to build a new kind of vaccine printer that can manufacture molecules. The new vaccine is being developed using Tesla's RNA printing technology, a new biotech advancement that Tesla and CureVac actually began working on last year.
Well, there you have it. I mean, how can people tell themselves and believe that Elon Musk has done a complete and total turnaround? There's no chances of that. There's no chances of his worldview totally changing. What has happened, possibly, is that he's just realized that he's not what liberals are today, or the whole thing is a farce and he's just totally pretending to be on our side and he's not at all. Either way, this guy only has a few things in common with us, and he still holds to most of those globalist values. But people tell themselves differently. They want to believe that somebody's on their side, as I always say, and especially during election season. So it's almost as if this change of character, and I do mean character and Elon has possibly been scripted. And I go back to, again, him and someone from the right having to be the one to kind of pull the right in and get them on board with EVs and the end of fossil fuels and everything that's going to come along with that, because we know it's going to be a lot of negatives coming along with that as well. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to own nothing and like it. So I think we need to think about all this stuff before we automatically allow ourselves to trust Elon Musk, Donald Trump, or any of these people telling us they're on our side, or just because they say things that we like, we tell ourselves that I can totally trust these people. Now they're with me, because we are relying on emotions and tribalism. And when we're doing that, we're not thinking clearly. We're not thinking at all. We're just reacting. And that's one of the biggest problems that we've had for a very long time, just thinking these people are on our side just because they tell us a few things that we like to hear. All right, guys, we've come to the end of this episode, and I thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me, and I hope that this has been a blessing to you. Please pass it on if you care to.